We have a lot of NHL news and rumors to discuss today, including the latest trade talk on the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are reportedly looking for a top six forward. We also have a potential significant deal brewing between the Anaheim Ducks and the New York Rangers. Could involve multiple players going in either direction. We have multiple updates on the trade front in Arizona, including the latest on Jacob Chychrun possibly heading to LA. And could they also trade a goalie as well, which might be intriguing to a few teams, including possibly the Edmonton Oilers or the Toronto Maple Leafs. Several other NHL updates, including news from the NHL waiver wire. We have a big signing in Dallas, as well as some injury updates and more. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of NHL news rumors here today. Of course, as you can see, we're still on the road, no longer in Ottawa. We've made the trip from Ottawa down to Quebec City, where we'll be attending an event tomorrow and heading back home on Sunday. So you'll likely see the first normal studio video either Sunday or Monday. Of course, there is a potential storm coming in, so I'm not sure how that's going to impact our travels home. But Ottawa was a great time. Got to go to the Sens versus Kraken game the other night, which was an awesome experience. First game in a while, so it was great to be back in NHL Arena. It's certainly going to be nice to be able to check out the Videotron Center here in Quebec City. So, of course, if the Nordiques were ever to make a return, that is where they would play. The arena's been there for some time, but this will be my first time attending an event there, so I'll be curious to check that out and certainly report back on any interesting things I find there. Obviously, it's a pretty good size by the looks of it. It looks like it seats around 18,000 fans, so should be great. It's where the Quebec Ramparts play in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League as well, so going to be kind of neat to check out that venue as well. Now, from the NHL waiver wire today, we have Sharks have Ryan Dzingel on waivers. So, of course, he is a player who's bounced around here. Was involved in a trade from Arizona to Toronto, got put on waivers, went to San Jose. He's played in the 6 games, scored 1 goal. Now he's back on waivers again. So, of course, he's become one of those players that we often see bouncing around from place to place to place. We'll see if anybody else gives him a chance. Obviously, besides playing in Arizona this year, he never did play for the Leafs. Played 6 games in San Jose. I mean, he's a useful player on a short-term deal. So, to me, I'd be surprised if he doesn't make it work somewhere. But hard to say exactly where things will land. But we'll find out. He'll either go to the AHL or another NHL club. We had a big signing in Dallas today with the Dallas Stars announcing they've re-signed veteran forward Joe Pavelski to a 1-year contract at $5.5 million, which is less than he's making now, and he's having a career season late into his 30s, which is something that you do not see very often, very rare for somebody to continue to perform at that level at that age. But Pavelski's certainly defying the odds and having an exceptional year. There was talk probably a month or two back that maybe he could be traded at the deadline. A lot of talk recently about a potential re-signing, which we now have confirmed. $5.5 million. He has a chance to earn another $500,000 in bonuses. The bonuses are all based on games played. So for every block of 10 games he plays, up to the first 50 would be a $100,000 bonus. So as long as he plays in 50 games, he'll get that 500 extra K on the bonus and make $6 million instead of 5.5. So to me, that's a pretty darn good deal. Like I said, Dallas is not guaranteed a playoff spot, but they're right in the mix there running the wild card spots. We'll see what happens with Klingberg. We know Klingberg wants a trade, won't be back in Dallas, but will they want to go into the playoffs with their blue line depleted? We already know Miro Heiskanen is going to be out now longer term with mono, so that's bad news there. Be very interesting to see how general manager Jim Nill decides to navigate through that. Now, of course, we also got some other injury updates as well, including actually not really an injury, but a leave of absence in the form of Alex Texier in Columbus. Texier hasn't played since late January, where he was injured, but the team did announce he's been given it a leave of absence for an indefinite period of time. Apparently, he's suffered multiple personal losses recently, dealing with a lot personally, and just needs to kind of be away and get himself some time to kind of deal with everything. So not sure exactly when he'll be back. When he was in action, he was setting himself up for a career season. Unfortunately, the injury shut things down earlier, and now with all the stuff going on in his personal life, it's going to make things tough as well. So we certainly wish him the best, and hopefully he can get back to kind of at least play some hockey before the end of the season, where it's not looking like the Jackets are going to be a playoff team. His season could come to an end relatively quick here if he's out for long, but of course, personal stuff has to come first in that regard. But be interesting to see. I know there was some talk as well about Texier being a trade piece that might be open for the Jackets to move him. Obviously being a player that might be getting a fresh start, even though he was having a solid start to the year. So we'll see where that goes. But my guess is now with everything, that's something that would be dealt with in the summertime if it is going to be something that's going to happen, or maybe they'll decide to keep him around. The Vancouver Canucks have made an interesting signing as well, signing one of the top scorers. Actually, he's tied for the scoring right now and lead in the Western Hockey League. Arshdeep Bains, who's a 21-year-old undrafted forward, putting up some big numbers there. Not too far from Vancouver, so I'm sure they've had ample opportunity to watch and scout him closely. So he gets a 3-year entry-level contract. As soon as his junior season is done, it'll officially can kick in for next year, and he'll likely join the Abbotsford team in American Hockey League, more than likely. Maybe even at the end of this year, it's possible. But they could also possibly sign him to an American an amateur tryout for the rest of this year and push that ELC to next year, since we're past March the 1st. But either way, they get themselves a very interesting prospect that's from Western Canada, and we'll see where things go on that front. Can't hurt to add a top scorer. Even though he's 21 years old, you do expect him to be dominating at a higher level when he's playing against 16, 17, 18-year-olds. But still, the fact of the matter is he's putting up the numbers. Might as well give him a chance. No harm, no foul. If they don't, at least give it a try. Another bad injury is Detroit's Robby Fabbri, who we know before coming to Detroit was missing a significant time in St. Louis with several knee injuries. He's believed he's going to be out for the season with another knee injury. It seems to be a different knee that he's had surgery on. So it's obviously the knee he had. I think he had surgery twice, if I'm not mistaken, on the same knee before. This one is the other knee, so both knees are going to be, kind of rehabilitated here from surgery, which is not good longer term, especially as after his playing days are over, when he gets a little bit older, into his 40s, 50s especially. I'm sure he's going to have his fair share of potential arthritis and other things that can come, but I guess he'll deal with that later. But in case of Fabbri, you really feel for the kid. He's got a lot of talent, and injuries have really been a major factor in his lack of playing time, lack of success, although the last couple of years in Detroit have finally been better, and it's nice to see him stay healthy. Then now we have this happen, so that's just a bad blow that the kid doesn't deserve, but I guess we can't take it back. Robin Lehner of the Vegas Golden Knights appears like he could be out longer term. I was talking before about a shoulder injury that appeared to be serious, and that might not be as serious as we originally thought, but now he's suffering from a lower body injury. He's been sent back to Vegas for further evaluation and tests, and it sounds like whatever it is, I'm not sure if it's an ankle, if it's a knee. We don't know the full extent of it, just on his lower body, and I've seen some reports or confirming, I should say, that he's going to be on crutches, and so he's not getting around very well. So you have to really think long and hard about the Golden Knights going into the goalie market for the deadline, and I know they denied it before, but with Marc-Andre Fleury being a pending UFA and the name being out there in Vegas, wouldn't you think they would at least consider bringing him back and have a conversation with him or his agent about that possibility? I don't know if it's something he would want to entertain or not, because when it was brought up before, the Vegas Golden Knights had quickly denied the fact, and then when Fleury was asked about it, he said, well, they've already denied it, so I guess it's not something I have to think about. So he kind of got away with really offering any thoughts on it, and it's not like it's something he probably would have done anyway, being a member of the Blackhawks, but still, you have to think it's at least there at top of mind, right? I mean, you need a goalie. Your former star goalie, last year's Vezina winner, is reportedly available. I mean, we know that there's some reports out there saying Fleury may not want to be traded. It might just finish the year in Chicago. But at the same time, I think he would move based on what some reports are saying for the right team. It just has to be the right opportunity for him. And if that doesn't come, then he won't move and he'll finish the season out and decide his future in the offseason. We'll see where things go on that front, but certainly very interesting. Now, staying with Vegas, of course, Jack Eichel made his triumphant return to Buffalo. Of course, the Sabres won the game, so Eichel had the unfortunateness there of losing against his former team, but after the post-game interview, he quickly became the villain. I know a lot of fans seem to be on his side. There was a kind of mix, though, I think, going through the whole trade chatter, especially when he was out injured, due to the fact that the Sabres wouldn't let him have the surgery he wanted. So I think a lot of fans were cutting him some slack, saying that it's not his fault that he's basically going to end up getting moved because the Sabres haven't treated him well and all that. But after the post game, if you listen to the full interview, he does say some things to kind of make it sound, kind of reflecting on the song of Buffalo. But one of the things he said was that he had never heard the building as loud as it was, and it took him leaving for them to come out and make it happen. So he can certainly make his taking a stab there at Sabres fans. So, like I said, he automatically becomes the bad guy there. And, we complain a lot that hockey players don't have enough personality, aren't outspoken enough. So when they do say stuff, sometimes they get a lot of grief for it. So we're not going to go there, to be honest. I think he should be allowed to speak his mind. But at the same time, I think Sabres fans totally have the right to be pissed off about that. It's just one of those things. You can both feel the same way. Whether you think he should have said it or not, like it's the way he feels. And clearly, I think there was more to his time in Buffalo that he wasn't happy about than he's probably ever said publicly. So, interesting to see where things turn. And he automatically became a heel there on those post-game interviews with the media after the Vegas Golden Knights and made his return to Buffalo. Now, onto the trade front, we got a variety of teams to talk about here. Like, for example, Jake Chychrun in Arizona still getting a lot of interest, and I see reports from Dave Pagnotta, fourthperiod.com, indicating that the Coyotes, of course, who Chychrun plays for, has a lot of interest in one of the top prospects and centers on the Kings, Gabe Vilardi, former first-rounder. Of course, battled a lot of back injuries, but right now, with the team being as deep as they are, with all the additions they've made for veterans, there's not really much room for him, so he's been spending a lot of time in the minors. And apparently he's high on the radar for Arizona. So you have to think with the prospect pool that they have, as I said before, if the Kings are real serious about making a play for Chychrun, they have all the necessary parts, picks, and prospects that would be very interesting to the Coyotes to help with their rebuild. So we'll see where that goes. Doesn't mean for sure he's going to LA, of course. Vilardi could possibly still be traded to Arizona in a different deal if that never materializes. We'll have to see where that goes. But the Coyotes have a ton of picks now. They've certainly restocked quite nicely, and I can see them even, trading a few of those second, third rounders or whatever for some prospects to get on their roster moving forward. So we'll see. The teams may hook up on a bigger deal, or maybe the Coyotes will continue to be interested in Vilardi, and we'll see a smaller trade either way. But could we see a significant deal between the Ducks and the Rangers? I've seen multiple reports indicating that very well could be the case. There's reported interest from the Rangers side in both Rickard Rakell up front and Hampus Lindholm on the blue line. I've seen reports from Arthur Staple of The Athletic, and I've seen Pierre LeBrun make mention of the same thing, but some potential connections there. And it could be a case where we see, either one or both, or maybe none of this happens. Maybe players are traded elsewhere. Hard to say, but we do know that the Rangers are, possibly looking at a D or a forward, and they might try to do both if they can make it work salary cap wise. That's going to be the hard, tricky part, but they do have more deadline space than a lot of teams, so they're going to have an option to make multiple additions here if they can come to agreement on some trades. And we know that as of right now, Lindholm was not signed on Anaheim, and indications are that there's a better chance now he's going to be traded. There's still time for them to come together on a contract, but right now they seem to be quite far apart on term, maybe on dollar. We don't really know about dollars. We've mostly heard term being the big issue. Looks like Anaheim wants shorter term, probably 4 to 5 years, where he's looking at 7 to 8 years to cash in on some long-term security, which makes sense on his part, which makes it more likely he could move. At the same time, because they've been trying to get him signed, there's been no contract talks on Josh Manson, as we've said before. Raquel appears to be likely heading out. The Ducks just placed Getzlaf and Silverberg on IR, so they're already a little bit out of the playoffs, and now they lose a couple of their veteran guys. It just, to me, puts the writing on the wall that they're going to definitely be sellers, and based on how things are sounding, at least, it sounds pretty unlikely that they're going to get many of these guys signed. I guess it really boils down to what the returns could be to get some future assets to add into this mix of a retool rebuild. The rebuild is already kind of underway here. It's hard to say exactly how long it's going to take. They do have some more players coming yet that will be interesting. But on the Rangers side of things, it's reported that they are willing to trade Nils Lundqvist on the prospect defenseman, who was certainly quite an interesting prospect. Braden Schneider's really grabbed a hold of an opportunity here, which kind of pushed Lundqvist down a little bit in the lineup. You still got Zach Jones as well looking for more opportunity. You got Vitaly Kravtsov, with a former first rounder who we know wants to trade to get a fresh start somewhere else. They all could have a good opportunity with the Ducks organization. And if the Ducks are trading Lindholm, to me, I think they're going to want, if they can, to get a younger D in return, if that's probably going to be a big part of the selling feature to make a trade. So adding Lundqvist in there, I think, would make them more willing to possibly want to include Lindholm if they're going to lose him to free agency anyways. Then, of course, you have, it doesn't mean it's going to be all those guys in there, but some combination of that is likely what's being discussed between those two teams. That's quite interesting in my opinion. We'll see where that goes. The Coyotes, of course, besides Jacob Chychrun, could also include a guy like Karel Vejmelka, the young 25-year-old goaltender who's a pending restricted free agent on the trade block. He's unsigned right now for next year. They might decide to get him a new contract and get him signed and make him the goalie for the next couple of years of this rebuild. Or they might decide to see what they can get on the market. I know teams like Edmonton and Toronto have been scouring for goaltending help. In the case of the Leafs, Campbell's out for at least 2 weeks. Mrazek's first game last night was not good, got yanked. They might look for goaltending help out of necessity here, which might unfortunately make them less likely to be able to improve other areas of the team. But it's kind of a big deal, right? So, but the case of Vejmelka, he's only making like $900,000, which is a lot less than most goalies, and he's actually played pretty well on a poor team this year. He may, not a star by any means, flies under the radar in Arizona, but he's getting a decent opportunity, and he's done okay with it. So I can see teams maybe that want some goaltending depth maybe giving him a chance. So we'll see where it goes. I think it's going to boil down to what the offers are, because the Coyotes clearly need to sign a goalie or two for next year. I don't know what they're going to plan to do. I think with Vejmelka, they're not completely sold on him being there longer term. I think it's just going to boil down to what he could generate in a trade. So we'll see. And we got further confirmation from Pierre LeBrun that the Penguins are indeed looking for top six help. As we've talked about in recent days, there's been a connection to the Canucks and Want Boeser, and I do think that is a legit player that they are looking at. I know the Canucks general manager and president, Alvin and Rutherford, recently made comments saying that they can't stop teams from inquiring with them, and they're not really actively shopping guys like Miller or Boeser. And I'm not entirely convinced 100% that they're actively shopping them per se, but I do think it's fair to say that they've been engaging in the marketplace to see what the value is. They kind of want to get an idea what other teams think of their players and what kind of return they might be able to get as they decide what to do with these players for the future of the team. I mean, they continue to play relatively well. They still have a shot at a playoff spot. It's not a given yet. They could very well fall just a little bit short as well and miss out a bit. Hard to say, but they're looking at a variety of players there. Like I said, for a team like Vancouver, if they do pull the trigger on a Boeser deal or any of their top forwards, because Garland's another guy that could be included in that conversation, they're going to want a top young defenseman coming back. And I think the only way that deal would be considered is if Ron Hextall and Brian Burke are willing to put John Marino in the deal. And if that's a no-go, then I don't think the deal goes anywhere. But we do know that the Penguins are looking at some other potential options as well, including, maybe even a guy like Phil Kessel or Rickard Rakell, who I mentioned is being interested by the Rangers. But at the same time, the reports from LeBrun indicate that Hextall is not necessarily looking for a rental. Like the preference might be to find a player with term, or if it's not term, then like a younger RFA like Boeser, for example, who they could have in a controlled situation where they can sign him longer term. So it may not be an expiring UFA player that they actually attract. Now, they may resort to that if they can't find another deal in another area, another player. But at the end of the day, you're looking at guys like Kasperi Kapanen, a young defenseman, Pierre-Olivier Joseph as being your main players that they would likely and potentially include in any kind of a trade in that regard, or possibly any of their draft currency that they have in future picks. So we'll see where that goes. But further confirmation there that the Penguins are indeed looking in that area, and it does make sense that Boeser might be somebody they're interested in. Doesn't mean for sure it's going to happen, but I'm sure that they're at the very least doing their due diligence and kind of taking in what the cost might be, looking around the league and see what kind of help they can find. So I wouldn't completely rule out a return of Phil Kessel. I know he's not what I said that they're looking for a player return, but if all else fails and they have to go to the rental market, why not bring back somebody that they're very familiar with? It's not going to cost a lot in Arizona, and they can try to make it work cap-wise from there. So let me know what your thoughts are and everything discussed here today down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.